Welcome to Cali High, episode 33, recorded on 420 live from Jamaica with Billy Mystic Wilmot, founding member and lead singer of the Mystic Revealers. Billy is also the proprietor of Jamnesia Surf Camp in Bull Bay, Jamaica, where the newest generation of reggae greats learned to surf. Let's talk to Billy. This is... Okay, Cali High is blessed to be here with Billy Mystic Wilmot, founder of the Mystic Revealers.
That's right.
Good morning, Billy. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to be alive and COVID-free, you know?
Absolutely, bro. Yes, indeed. So, can you tell us, our audience, a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm male. I'm about coming on up to 62 years old. Past 61, I'm my way to 62 now.
Okay.
I'm a musician slash actor slash surfer slash daddy slash grandpa slash uncle slash brother slash great granduncle, all kind of things. But I think probably my biggest international claim to fame is as one of the founding members of the group Mystic Revealers, which is not by any means a very well-known reggae group, but we are authentic and we have we are known in the music circle in Jamaica for what we have done. We had a few hits over the years that transcended the Jamaican marketplace and exposed us to marketplace in Europe and Japan and North America, South and Central America as well. You know,
Yeah.
the group was signed to a number of recording labels over the years. So we've worked with labels like local labels like Carrying. We've worked with Oneness label, Jimmy Cliff Oneness label. We've done work internationally with Atlantic Records and with Mesa, with Ras Records. We've had a release more recently through VP Records as well.
Yeah. So
Musically, that's basically a little bit about me. Otherwise, I'm the father of 5. Married to my wife Claudette. We've been married for about 42 years now. 5 kids, 5 grandkids, And
well, blessings, bro. That's quite
yeah, man, give thanks,
Yeah. Yeah. So, have you always lived in Jamaica?
Yes, all my life. I was born here, right here in Bull Bay. Grew up in Bull Bay, right here.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say people are following you, you seem to be fairly well connected in the reggae scene, and I was just wondering how come I never heard of you, but I've been listening to your tunes lately. I've been really loving them.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Before we get into the music a little more, I just was very fascinated that you have a surf school there on the beach right there.
Yeah, right here at Jamnesia. We have a surf. I've been surfing since the 60s,
Yeah.
So surfing, I've been a surfer for way longer than I even was a musician. We didn't get the band together until about 1978 or so we got the band together, but for at least 10 years prior to that, I was surfing here in Jamaica. So surfing was a part of who I was, the fact growing on the beach here, and the sea is rough here in Bull Bay most of the time. So we learned to swim and catch the waves, which we didn't know was surfing at the time because we hadn't been exposed to surfing. We didn't know anything about Hawaii and California and that sort of thing. We just knew our little local knowledge in the 60s. And we knew if you swam with a wave and you swam fast enough, it would pick you up and take you along for the ride. And we got little pieces of wood that we could hang on to and swim, and we used to call them belly boards. Lie down on our belly and come in. So we got into surfing from that time,
Yep.
So over the years, based on the journey we've been through, my wife has always wanted to have some kind of tourism offering, but she was more thinking of like a place up in the mountains, a kind of holistic life sort of thing. But because we weren't financially well off enough to occupy and maintain two different properties on opposite end of the island or opposite sides of the island, we had to narrow down our vision. So the idea during my touring around when the band started to tour, I was exposed. I got a chance to go to California. We were touring the west coast of the United States, and I'd been surfing all my life. And by this time, I was like about 30 years old, 32 years old, with kids and everything. Finally, getting to go to California and traveled up and down there and saw the surfing environment, saw the surfing vibe. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Say,
sir.
wow, people up here would really appreciate what we have in Jamaica, because in my mind, by that time, I had been exposed to surfing. Now I had gotten magazines. Their VHS cassettes of surfing were available on the market. And as a surfer, I'd buy them and take them home to show the kids. So we kind of saw the waves that were being pursued internationally and the quality of the waves. But we're under the misconception that this is how the waves were always in these other places. We didn't realize that, wow, the images we are getting from these world-renowned surf locations were just images of the best days of the year.
Yeah.
We grew up thinking like it was like that every single day of the year in Hawaii or California. So when we found out that that's not the case, and it came down to sort of reality, we realized we had a wonderful setup in Jamaica with like 300 days of surf a year. I mean, no crowds, lots of different spots with high quality surf.
Mm-hmm.
I thought and say, well, maybe if we open a little surf camp, I'm sure we could find enough people to fill our few little rooms that we could create on our little space where we could put some tents and things like that. People would come and tie up a hammock for $10 a night, and it would supplement our income. So let's go for it. And we established a surf camp, and it grew from just being a little place of our own to world-renowned Jamnesia, that people from all over the world come here for surfing, music, skating, and Rastafari reasoning.
And how do we get there? You're outside of Kingston, you're saying?
Well, we are close to the airport in Kingston. When you land at the airport in Kingston, at Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston, we're just about 15 minutes from the airport. It's an easy drive out to the camp. We have airport shuttle that can meet you and bring you out to the camp.
Yeah.
We have a few rooms. It's very simple. Just tiny little rooms with some beds in it, a little cupboard space, shared bathroom. We offer meals.
Yeah, you got a
And
restaurant
we have
there.
tours, and it's just a feel good, like somewhere to be in Jamaica where you're not at all inclusive. And
Yeah.
you're not in the tourist trap. You're in real Jamaica.
Well,
We
I'd
can
like to
take you
come and
downtown to the recording studios, and if you want to go to the Bob Marley Museum, you can jump on a local bus and go there like how normal people do. So it's a really nice immersive experience to the old Jamnesia thing.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I hope to get there, and I'd love to be staying there.
Yeah, man, you have to come on down, bro.
Yeah. So you were saying that we talked yesterday a little bit, and you said that the big waves come during the winter when the hurricanes are happening, right?
Yes, that's the summer season,
Yeah. Yeah.
like from June to the beginning of October, I guess.
And how gnarly is it?
Oh, it can be super gnarly, super duper gnarly. I mean, life and death.
Uh-huh.
Your life is on the line when you're out there gnarly.
Yeah.
Waves the size of 2 to 3 story building.
Yeah.
But it's all on YouTube and the internet. If you just do a Google search for surfing in Jamaica, you'll find us, because we're like the main place. So you
Yeah.
can't miss us. And there's lots of videos and photos and stuff up there. You can see what it's like. People don't believe. I was just the other day. There's some famous surfing guys called the Godauskas brothers from California, from Encinitas. And they came down here and were surfing with us. And the last hurricane season, we sent back some video for them, and they were telling us, man, this looks like Sunset Beach, Hawaii. It's exactly like Sunset Beach. So
Yeah.
we took it from them that's a good comparison.
That's cool, bro. I can't wait to check it out someday. So What instruments do you play, Mystic?
I don't like to claim to be a instrumentalist, but I am the I'm a mainly a singer songwriter, and I use a guitar to do my songwriting.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not a guitar virtuoso by any means. I do play with the band, and most of the time when we're recording, the rhythm guitar is usually me. Sometimes I'll add a few little phrases here and there. I do play bass. You know, bass is probably my favorite instrument, even though I'm not the bass player. Bass, I would say, is my favorite thing, and I do a lot of percussion work as well.
Yeah,
You know,
I
so
like the percussion on your music.
yeah, but I would never, knowing the musicians that I do in the reggae industry and their caliber of talent,
Yes,
I would
sir.
never be so forward as to present myself as a musician. I much rather say I'm a singer songwriter.
Well, that's cool. So, uh, who are your musical influences? I noticed you have
Um,
quite a range of types of songs. Very cool.
yes. Mystic Revealers, we were one of the reasons why many people didn't know about us is because we're very difficult to put into a box. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're not. You can't just say we're roots or we're dancehall or we're dub or we're
No.
we are musicians. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a songwriter who writes emotionally in terms of how do I feel in the moment. Just growing
Yeah.
up in Jamaica, you're exposed to international music. When I grew up, there was just two radio stations. It was RJR and JBC, and it was
Yeah.
AM frequency, very poor quality
Yeah.
sound and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So the only thing that were played on Jamaican radio was recordings that were the best
Yeah.
quality possible. So most of the music you heard on the radios in Jamaica was hit parade music from North America or Britain, and some productions, because there was one or two major recording studios back in the 60s that had the capacity to produce music at the level that when the record was produced, you could actually put it on a turntable and play it on an AM frequency and send it out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you could actually hear what was going on. A lot of early Jamaican music was the iconic music was recorded in very low quality recording
Yeah.
studios. 2 track and 4 track and 8 track, and a lot of that music was not able to be presented on the radio. So
Yeah.
in those days, they would call that music dancehall music. It wasn't a genre. It just meant that music that was not really fit for airplay, and not fit for airplay because of lyrics or content, but just due to quality. So
Uh-huh.
those music now would be played on sound systems in the dance hall, because that's dance hall. The sound system is the signal path for a sound system is way different than a radio station. The radio station just takes the signal from the needle, puts it through an amplifier, and send it out in a mono signal out over the airwaves with a tone. You can either tone it high or low or in the middle. The early recording, the early sound systems had a crossover system where they took the signal from the needle on the turntable, and they put it into a 4 band splitter that would select the frequency. You could say, okay, we select the bottom end, all those frequencies, send
Equalizers.
them right, send them through, not even through an equalizer. It was it select. You could set the parameters of the audio signal. So
Uh-huh.
they would set it up so you had bass coming out of this thing. It would go to an amplifier of its own and be connected to the bass bins. Then
Mm-hmm.
they would have low mid frequency coming out of another thing. It would go to amplification, equalization, and go to the low mid speaker cabinets. Then you have the high mid that will go same procedure. So it was a 4 band.
Oh, wow.
It had 4 bands of separation. So when the record was being played, you had more audio control in the sound system than you did on
Mm-hmm.
radio. Radio basically just had to be good on the record. If it wasn't, it wouldn't sound good. But
Right.
the sound systems, they could put this record on that was made in some tiny studio. And if the low mids needed boosting, they could boost it. Or if the bottom end needed boosting, or the high ends, or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
high mid, the vocals was a bit low, they could turn up the high mids and not affect the bottom end responses. So
Yeah.
with that 4 band crossover that they implemented, it
Wow.
allowed the music to be played and heard on a much higher quality than it could possibly be heard on the radio.
And did
So
that
living in Bull Bay is an area where I grew up now, where it's a sound system place. We have Little Cooper, Island in the Sun, Arambe Theatre, Paradise Cove. A lot of these places back in the day where sound system would come to play. Jack Ruby would come up from country and Kilimanjaro and all of the sound system. All of the top sound system like in the 70s, the Socialist Roots and Sturgav and all of them type of sound system always used to play in the area.
Yeah, yeah.
So in those early times, I was exposed to this type of music,
Right.
music that was on the radio because the quality, and that meant it would be coming from abroad. And
Yeah.
I would be hearing all of the local stuff that was being played by the sound system that you would not hear on the radio. So I had a very wide listening scope that affected me.
Uh-huh.
So if I was going to narrow down now and say, who were some of the people whose music affected me?
Yeah. Well,
I used to love listening to music. I used to love listening to Freddie McGregor, Dennis Brown,
mm-hmm.
Alton Ellis,
Yep.
Gregory Isaacs, Hugh Mundell, some of the younger ones in that time also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Buddha Iskender, Israel Vibration, you know.
Well, just
These are the groups that I would listen to and love. You know, a lot
yeah.
of the music that was being played by Jalov Music, you know, a lot of the 12 Tribe of Israel artists, you know, that
That's
were on the Orthodox label.
it's funny you would say that because yesterday
Go ahead.
somebody was telling me about Israel Vibration.
Yeah,
That's-
Israel Vibration and
Yeah.
a lot of other acts that came out through that musical outlet, which is the 12 Tribes of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And the music body of the 12 Tribe of Israel. You know, a lot of those acts, Dennis Brown, Freddie McGregor, these artists come out through the air, you know,
Yeah.
through 12 Tribe of Israel, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
all of these artists were musicians and artists that we were exposed to and familiar with. In terms of international, of course, it was all the R&B artists, you know, influenced us, you know, all of those R&B groups, you know.
Yeah. Well,
But
I certainly saw
in
a
terms of
big
reggae, we used to love. We love when Steel Pulse came on the scene, you know, and Aswa. That was very interesting for me
Mhm.
because Steel Pulse didn't sound like a band who was trying to sound authentically Jamaican, you know. Aswad was a band that was in England, but was probably the most authentic Jamaican sound band at that time. But
yeah.
we admired Steel Pulse because their thing was different and it did have an international flavor to it that made it different. I'm on a,
Absolutely.
yeah, my granddaughter coming.
Can we say hi?
Hello.
Hi.
Bye bye.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, so you know, Aswad and Steel Pulse were two of the international groups. Of course, Africans like Lucky Dube as well, you know, Fela Kuti. You know, we had a sophisticated listening ear.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I couldn't leave out Third World, our own Third World, you know, and of course Bob Marley and the Wailers. So, I had a lot of influences musically, and when you listen to our catalog, you will see that our music does cover a wide range of genre feel, you know.
Yes.
So
Well,
yeah, that's it.
that's why I asked that question. You know, I saw some Motown influence in there. I saw some roots reggae. I saw, you know, various but eclectic mixes of You know, let me ask you, who are the members of the Mystic Revealers beside yourself?
Well, right now the remaining members that we have is myself, Leroy Edwards, our Lion on bass, and Nicholas Henry, or Nicky Cymbal on drums, as
Uh-huh.
the three remaining foundation members of the group. You know,
Well, that's cool.
But when we were recording this our latest album, I did go out and try to get some of the other musicians who had played with the group over the years because
Y-
you know um, since about 1988 or so, the three of us have been members of the group. You know, the group, as I said, started in the late 70s.
Uh-huh.
So it was like we had been through a few drummers previously and a number of different keyboardists and so on. But by 88, um, it was myself and Lion who had founded the group in the 70s. And then Drummy came on board about 88 or so, 87. He came on. And since then, it's been the three of us. And there's been a large number of people who have come on board and changed, you know, different lead guitarists come on, different harmony singers, you know. That
Yeah,
sort
well,
of
the
thing.
players seem to be really great. Last year, you released Jaja People. Was that your
Yes.
first album in like 23 years? I know you did some singles in between.
Yes, we did a number of singles, and I think VP had put out a compilation of hits from our catalog also.
Oh, yeah, I
You know,
saw that.
right.
Yeah,
But yeah, this is the first album in about 23,
yeah.
23, 24 years probably.
Well, it's a great album, and I recommend it to my
Thank you.
listeners wholeheartedly.
Thank
Um,
you.
so, who is singing? You know, I, I know you. I know you have Herb Must Legalize Now was released in 2015,
Yes.
and you got Chronics, and you have Kabaka Pyramid on there,
Yes,
and
among others.
it seems like a big party at that recording.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, you know, Jamnesia is a seedbed for raw young talent, you know.
Yeah,
So that's really why all those artists are a part of it. Most of those artists are artists that have some historical connection with Jamnesia. You know, all of this new reggae revival movement
uh-huh.
all sprang out of the Jamnesia, the reality of the Jamnesia experience. You know.
Yeah,
So it was easy getting all those guys on board, you know, all personal friends. Everybody who was on there are personal friends of ours. You know?
yeah. Well, that's a great tune, by the way.
Thank you.
So I have one little question.
Yo, beg you keep it down for a minute.
On your 1997 song "Warning,"
Yes.
who's the girl singing?
Chachi
Yeah.
Tedasi. Yeah, Chachi Tedasi, she's an Ethiopian girl
Uh-huh.
who was in the island at that time. And we were at Carrying Records over in St. Anne. We were
Yeah.
in the studio and we were all hanging out there and we got together and do that, you know. And it was wonderful experience. Yeah, man. Love that
Yeah.
song.
Beautiful voice, great tune, very moving.
Yeah, man. Give thanks.
So where did you record Jaja People?
Well, Jaja people, I started, you know, we hadn't done anything for so long and I'd still been writing songs and I have this huge backup of songs. Even now I have at least another album or two worth of songs that have been written in the space of time. So I wanted to put something out. So I decided it had been so long the band had been inactive, you know, we were doing a few little shows here and there and rehearsing just to keep our fingers up to speed, you know. So I said, you know, we want to put out an album. I want to put out an album. I want to do
Yeah.
one thing more, you know.
Yeah.
So I started on it, and then so it started because I know a lot of people in the industry, and over the years we've gained a certain amount of respect in the industry. I was in a position where I could basically call on members of the Jamaican music fraternity
Yes, sir.
to come and be a part of what I was doing, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how I started doing it, and I started recording. I recorded about 4 songs and had a lot of other work, a lot of other preparatory work and demo work being done.
Yeah.
But about 2 years ago, we had a fire at my
Uh-oh.
home. My house burned to the ground, and we lost everything. I lost a lot of Mystic Revealers memorabilia, all our photos. I had like our very first test press of our very first release.
Sorry to
We
hear
had
that, bro.
stuff like, yeah, man, all my posters from the tours and international tours over the years, everything I'd collected around the group, all the cassettes, all the CDs, all the DVDs, all the live video of us performing internationally, everything was in storage at the house, and it all went up in smoke. And a lot of the stuff that I'd been working on at the time also,
Yeah.
we lost it. So I ended up saying, you know what? I'm going to just go for it. I look up and say, how can I said, nowadays people making music and stuff on them phone, I must be able to just make some music here. I'm tired of this,
Yeah.
So I had Garage Band on a tablet, and I made a few tracks. I put a few tracks on the Garage Band and say, I think I don't care. Even if it's on Garage Band, I'll put it out. I'm going to do it. So I just want to get this music out there. So I made a few demos on Garage Band, and then I was listening to it. I say, if this technology is available on this like a tablet, I'm sure there must be some available technology that's maybe on a production level,
Yep.
So I did some research, and I found out that you can do stuff, and I got access to a program. Somebody suggested a program to me, music sound editing program. I downloaded it to my laptop. I went out and I bought a Behringer 18 XR18, which I would recommend to anybody interested in recording. Gave me an 18 input ability, so I could actually record. We could set up the whole band and record live. It had enough input into the thing as USB connection to the laptop. So that basically gave me a studio right on my veranda. And most of the tracks, I think of the 12 tracks, I think probably about 8 or 9 of them were recorded on my veranda here in Bull Bay,
Really?
So, and voice right there. I mean, if you had access to the original tracks, I could solo vocal tracks, and you could hear my grandkids running around in the background, So it's a very natural sound we use. But I mean, everybody who asks me, where did you record this? And I tell nobody believed that it was on the veranda, because the audio quality still tends to make you think it was recorded inside a control studio.
Yeah, I thought it was in one of the studios in Jamaica. And you have horns on there that sound amazing.
Yes, I use a lot of horns. I'm for live horns.
Yeah.
And I've always been for
Great
live
horn
horns.
section.
Even when we used to tour, I used to be very upset because the record company, it would mean 3 more tickets, and we were already a huge aggregation on stage. We were like 8-9 people on stage plus crew.
Yeah.
So when we went on tour, it was a big undertaking. So to ask for horns as well from the record company was like, and we need a bus that sleeps 16 people as well. And it was. So I ended up touring a lot without horns, but I always loved horns. So now when I was at this situation, here we are in COVID, we're all locked down. I'm recording. I can call Dean if I want Dean come put on an horn for me. I mean, we know all of the people in the industry.
Exactly.
And they have nothing to do. Everybody's stuck here. Nobody's on tour, anything. So I just access a lot of the people who I'd worked with in the past, Got keyboardist Bowie come in and lay keyboards for me, and then my brethren Isaacs put on horns for me, and Stingray them put on horns for me, and
yeah, well, they sound great.
China Smith them helped me also, China do some production with me on one of the songs as well, Sitting on the Beach. I have been chant. We did that at China's place. That was one of the songs that wasn't done on my veranda, but was done on his veranda, in the yard. So, it was a very entertaining experience for me, to make this album. And it's the first album I've had so much say over the finished product, Before, we're some young group and you're signed to Atlantic Records, and they will just say, hey, why don't you work with Mike? He's a great producer. He worked with so-and-so and so-and-so and so.
Yeah.
It's good to have him on the album. And he comes in and you give him your song and he says, why don't you put a bridge here? A bridge would really be nice here. Listen, you could go to a D minor there, and then so next thing you know, him have co-writing on your album, and the song don't sound like what it sounded to you, but because this record company is spending $50,000 or $60,000 on your production, you can't just say fuck you because you don't have
Yeah.
a million selling record, under your belt where you can dictate to them. They're promising to make a star out of you, so this new album, I didn't have to deal with any of that. I
Yeah.
could, I didn't have recording studio costs. I didn't have to book studio time ahead and be out of there because the next group is outside waiting and we're already 1 hour past our checkout time and they want to come in and record. I
Yeah.
could just wake up at 3 in the morning and go out on the veranda and say, I'm going to try those harmonies again tonight. You know what I mean? And that
Yep.
gave me such amount of control. And because I was the main mixing engineer as well, you know,
Yep.
along with me and my son, Einelek, we did most of the production work. So it was really, relaxing and very
Uh-huh.
low stress
Yeah. Yeah.
environment to create the music in. So
Well, it
as a
has a
result,
really
I
great
feel
vibe.
very, very happy with the finished product.
Yeah, it's got a great vibe, and I really like Blue Nile. I like a
Yeah.
lot of the songs, but Blue Nile somehow just hit me.
Yeah, that was recorded at Grafton. That was one of the songs that was recorded at Grafton. Mikey Bennett's studio, great
Uh-huh.
friend of mine, collaborated over the years. He's worked on a number of my recordings over the years.
Yeah.
We worked on that one together at Grafton studio, and
Yeah.
that was exciting. The horns weren't done there. I did horns elsewhere. Some of the
Yeah.
things recorded one place, mixed other place, and
I hear you.
finalized on my veranda. Some of the
Yeah, yeah.
songs that ended up getting mixed on the veranda that were recorded in some of the other studios.
Are you getting airplay?
We're getting airplay. Surprisingly, we're getting airplay, but Jamaica is so technically up to date now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody has a program that you can buy.
Yeah.
They have some sort of service. They have a promotional thing, and it includes X amount of plays per week, and
Yeah.
and X amount of radio stations, and it costs $2,000 for the first month, and then
What?
whatever, and when you pay them, then all of a sudden your music starts playing mysteriously on a lot of radio stations.
Yeah.
So we don't have that kind of budget behind us. So as I say, I made this music for special people who would go out and discover it and have
Well-
it like a very precious thing that's not readily available, something you've never heard about and wonder why. This is the avenue we're going down with our thing. So we're hoping that maybe because we don't have that type of support in terms of promotional support around it, we're more going for maybe a long-term gradual snowball effect, because the songs, being the fact that they are not tied to any production sound, traditional sound, like it's not truck back or it's not a producer sound.
Yeah.
It's our
Well-
sound, which is unique. So if you hear it this year or next year or the year after, it's not going to be so easy for you to time stamp it because it's
No.
on some rhythms that were produced in 2018. So now you're time stamped with 2018. So we're hoping that it will have a kind of longer lifespan and a chance to snowball and gather fans and listeners.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it would be a great big hit in Hawaii. I mean, I took a trip
Yes.
to Hawaii and turned on the radio stations and they're all freaking playing reggae, you know. And
Yeah, I have a friend over there, Willie Judah. I think he's KCRC or something like that radio in Kauai. Yeah,
yeah,
man, he's giving us some plays too, So
yeah.
big up to Willie Judah for them support.
That's cool. So, some of the rhythm sections almost sound like they were recorded together live. Were they? Or
Yes,
you just
it's all live. It's all live recording. No,
Yeah.
we haven't used any loops. The only song that was used with a drum machine and looping was "Kiss for Me," which we did with Natural High.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wanted something on the album, young and feeling like what was going on locally at the time we did the album, so that would be able to timestamp the album for me.
Mm-hmm.
That collaboration with what the youngsters who were on the cutting edge of producing this kind of trap type sound thing.
Yeah, the trap thing.
I just gave them that and they did that. So apart from that, everything else is live is live recording, live drum and bass, drummer country off and we roll off and we lick the rhythm, and if it's not steady, because we're not under studio time pressure, we were able to say, all right, I don't like that take, let's go again.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, let's try it again tomorrow. All right, weekend, we try it on the weekend, So we had time to do that sort of stuff. So the album is a lot of one take.
Yeah.
A lot of the vocals are one take vocals. Most of the vocals were the guide voice that was laid at the time when we were laying the rhythm. A couple places maybe we would have to punch in and fix a few little flat spots, but we tried not to interfere with the production very much. You know what I mean? I mean, lot of spots. My son was concerned about my voice going flat at certain little points, and I told him, no, I want to keep that. I want it real. I don't want something that we go back and punch that in and punch me in there and punch me in there and punch me in there.
Yeah.
That's slightly flat. This is a little bit late going into this line. I said, no, just do it. It's a real thing. It's like a live show. I want it to feel real live, So the album, it was as a result of that concern why the album has the feel that it does,
Yeah, it has a great Irie vibe, if I understand Irie. So, do you play reggae festivals? Or are you planning to after things open up after this?
I mean, left to what this COVID thing is coming with, I can't have a problem with pushing a Q-tip 1 foot up my nostril. I just can't manage the COVID test where they push that thing way up in
your nose,
all up to your brain, like it's a brain test. They want to see, do you have any brain up there? They push this thing all the way to, okay, yes, you have some brain. When it impact on your brain or the top of your skull, I can't handle that, bro. I cannot handle it. I mean, they try to put something up my nose, and I just grab it out.
I know it's a natural reaction. I have it
so
too.
If it's not like a swab in the mouth or something like that, I don't think I'm going to be traveling anytime soon. So
how are the vaccine distributions in Jamaica?
Yeah, man, them vaccinating people out here.
Yeah,
people lining up for it, but not me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm too old now. I've lived so long that I don't want to take up too much space for too long on the planet. They're talking about the place being overpopulated. I don't want to live to be too old and become a problem. So I hope that Jah will protect me. And I know that none of us were born into this world to live forever. And we all got to come somehow and go somehow. So I want to be as happy about my time here as possible and enjoy it as much as I can, So I kind of staying away from the COVID thing and the vaccines and all that, because I don't see it around me. Maybe if it gets a lot more serious and people actually are dying that I know, and I see sick people around me, and every day I hear about somebody else from my community who has gone to the hospital and may not return. But I don't have any proof of any of that from where I am. I hear it on the radio, oh, there's all these people, but I'm not experiencing in my community of Bull Bay. I don't see it. And funnily enough, Bull Bay was ground zero. The first case that was identified in Jamaica was identified just about a mile down the road from me. And so far, I don't really know anybody who has died or anything. I know some people who have had it, who have been tested positive and were isolated. And when I spoke to them, they said, well, if nobody had told them it was COVID, they would have just thought it was just an ordinary flu, because none of their symptoms were any different than a normal flu. So
well, stay blessed, bro.
I'm not saying it's not dangerous, I'm not saying it's not dangerous and people shouldn't be concerned, I'm just saying that me personally, I put my faith in the Most High, and if COVID is what was lined up to take me out, I don't think a vaccine is going to be able to stop it from getting me,
Well, so, I think if you're out there surfing, your endorphins are going to keep you immune, probably.
I think so too.
So let's talk herb for a minute, since it is 420.
Yeah, blessed 420.
Yeah, bless up. How long have you been partaking of the sacred herb?
The first, of course, as little tiny kids, we would find Jamaica is everybody smoke weed. So
yeah.
when we were little kids, I figure that maybe in North America the equivalent would be to finding somebody's cigarette butt and lighting it up and taking a pull on it. So that is basically how we really started as kids, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So much weed being smoked all over the place. Sometimes you're lucky enough to find like a joint that somebody lit and it went out and it fell or lost and you end up finding it. So from when we were very young, we got into that type of thing. I would say before I was 10 or 11 years old, we had already lit up and pulled something and
Oh, yeah.
carved and that sort of thing. But in terms of actually getting access to weed for myself and partaking and saying that I smoke weed and being able to declare that, I was probably about 14
Uh-huh.
years old,
Yeah.
15 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been smoking since I was 12.
Yeah.
So, what has the herb in Jamaica changed over the years?
Over the years, well, in the beginning, you used to smoke a lot of seedy bush, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They
only
all had seeds in it.
with only a seed in it, and
Yeah.
you know, them days at chalice we had smoke, you know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to make a joint, you know,
Uh-huh.
when I was smoking.
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
If it wasn't one you found, we were smoking a chalice, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was not very high quality weed, you know.
Mhm.
It wasn't a connoisseur thing, you know. It
Mhm.
was much more like smoking a cigarette as opposed to doing drugs, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So the whole experience of marijuana in Jamaica was a much more casual, leisurely undertaking as opposed to like, let's go down in the basement and get high. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it wasn't that kind of energy. So in Jamaica, when you said drug, nobody thought marijuana.
Yeah.
They thought LSD, you know, cocaine, you know, PCP, some kind of manufactured thing was what
Yeah,
we
yeah.
considered drugs. So marijuana wasn't even included as
Yeah.
a drug in our mindset because grandpa smoked, grandma smoked, Uncle Jerry smoked, my
Yeah,
father
yeah.
smoked, my cousins, you know, everybody exposed to it. And it wasn't like people were having to hide, as I say, in the basement to go get a toke, you know.
Yeah.
People would smoke. Mr. Brown was a policeman, live across the road, and him smoke too. He
Uh-huh.
don't smoke in uniform, you know, but when him at home, his son smokes and he doesn't lock up his son, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it was a much more socially acceptable pursuit
Mhm.
in Jamaica. So we never really had that kind of connoisseur type thing, like, wow, we got to go hide and get high as quickly as we can and then get out of there before the cops find us, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't that type of environment.
Yeah.
So nowadays, with the new herb thing and High Times magazine and all of this, we're seeing a lot more of those designer marijuana nowadays, you know, and a lot more people are smoking marijuana nowadays than used to. So you
Yeah.
find out that most of the new users of marijuana are very much into the quality and the high grade type of thing.
Right. And
Ancient elders obviously love good marijuana,
absolutely.
but are not out there to get this thing that you take one pull and you got to go to sleep. You know, it's
Yeah. So let me ask two things I have a question about. One, do you know about the lamb's bread technique?
I wasn't really a herb planter, you know, but I know that lamb's bread in those days, it was like, you know, when you see it, we'd have a lot of crystals on it. In those days, when I was back, I'm talking about the late 60s, early 70s, when people tell you about lamb's bread, you said lamb's bread, but really what it was coming from was lamb's breath.
Really?
The breath of the lamb.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like when you put your mouth over on a glass and you see the breath show.
Uh-huh.
So those crystals, you know,
Yeah.
on the herb, on the hair of the herb, and you see those crystals, it was like condensation of the lamb's breath, you know. So that was one of the aspects. Some people call it lamb's bread,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there was a lot of things, but lamb's bread was, for us, it just meant very high quality weed to most of the lay people, you know. It was,
Right.
and as I say, I wasn't a herb farmer,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know what were the procedures that would categorize one weed as lamb's bread and the other one as whatever,
Well,
sensimina. We know that sensimina is no seed, you know.
yeah. In
So,
1975, I came to Jamaica and I
mhm.
went to Negril and I met a Rastafarian named Reeford Ward. And
Okay.
he took me up to his grow and he told me that lamb's bread or breath was when you would cut the top just after it started budding, you cut the top 8 inches off, put it back in the ground, and
Okay,
it
I wouldn't know.
reroots like a clone. Anyway, so
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. And I
yeah,
would not tell you that you're wrong.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can educate me as much too.
yeah.
Because,
I hear
if
you.
I was right now, me just go get weed and smoke weed. And my brethren bring a bag of weed and we sew it up and we smoke it at the chalice and we give thanks. And if there's
Uh-huh.
a tremendous amount of seeds, we would cut up the weed and put it on the board and set it at an
Yep.
angle and
Oh, I
stroke
had
it and
seeds too,
roll
bro.
out the weed seed,
Every
Yeah, it was,
every bud had seeds when I was a kid.
yeah.
We had Mexican, we had Colombian. We didn't get Jamaican on the West Coast, but
Yeah, too far.
yeah, yeah. They had it on the East Coast, I believe. So,
Yes, indeed.
I've heard about a legendary strain called the Cotton. Do you know anything about that?
No, You
Okay.
know what happened to me? When I stopped getting really into all the different varieties and
Yeah.
blends and strain of weed, about 10 or 15 years ago, I was exposed to a tremendous amount of insecticide, inhaled a lot of insecticide in a room,
Oh, yeah.
and almost died from insecticide poisoning. And since that time, I can't smell or taste anything.
Uh-oh.
So when they bring the weed to me and say, "How does this smell?" I can't smell it.
Uh-oh.
So
I'm sorry to
so
hear that.
yeah. So right now me just smoke weed like cigarette.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
always have a spliff in my mouth or always have a
Mm-hmm.
load the chalice and So it's
Well,
more like a habit to me now. I'm constantly on a certain level mentally, and I
uh-huh.
just stay there.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't have to go and pursue to get high. I guess I'm high 99% of the time.
I hear you, bro. Well, listen, I want to thank you for this interview, and it's been really, really nice talking to you, and I hope to get to your Jamnesia surf camp there, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And if you check out Jamnesia Surf IG, every Sunday we have a live stream where we present various artists who more than likely you've never heard of as well. But like, as I say, out of the Jamnesia experience came artists that if you're a reggae aficionado, you will know because Chronix is a product of Jamnesia.
Oh, wow.
Protege is
Yeah.
a product of
I love those
Jamnesia.
guys.
John 9, Raging Fire,
Yeah.
Nomads, Kabaka Pyramid,
Yep.
Jesse Royal. I mean, all of these iconic artists right now.
Yep.
If you do get the opportunity to interview them, ask them about their Jamnesia experience and if they have one.
I will. I've been trying to get to interview Chronix and Protege, and I was hoping that Protege's mom might help out on that end, but Lorna Bennett.
Yeah, man. All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
but-
Lana. The first day Protege went on a stage in his life, it was right here at my place. His mother was sitting right there, and everybody said, "Go on the stage, go." And he was really shy. He didn't want to go up. So the
Yeah.
first time he went on the stage in his life was at Jamnesia.
Well, this last year of COVID lockdown, I have derived countless hours of pleasure listening to both those guys.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
man.
everybody
Good
else,
kids,
too.
Good kids.
Really like
All
the
right.
new Third World album, and now I've got your album, the new album. So I'm stoked over here in Cali. So maybe we'll do something in the future and check back in with you.
Yeah, man. Of course.
And-
course. Anytime. It was great. talking
Can
to
I
you.
call you on? Can we do a live IG later, maybe?
Yeah, man. No problem. Link me up as.
How late do you stay up out there?
Usually I go to bed around 1:30, 2 in the morning.
Oh wow. Okay, so I'll call you, bro.
All right.
Did you learn how to roll a reefer or a spleef?
Yeah. I had to learn. I had to learn when
Yeah.
when I went to college. I had to learn
Okay.
because chalice was too much. When I went to the Jamaica School of Agriculture here in Jamaica. So
Oh wow.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. For a long time, I never needed to roll a spliff. It was just because I was studying at night, and it was too much work to set up the chalice
Yeah.
while studying. So
Okay.
I ended
Well,
up having to roll a spliff.
I'll give you some special tips when I meet you.
All right. I'm pretty good now, though. I've had
Oh,
a
yeah?
few years since
Okay.
then, since college years.
Yeah.
I've had 20 or 30 years of practice rolling the spliff.
Yeah.
So
My brother
I
taught me
can
when I was like 12, and he was the best roller I ever saw. And then
My
I
son,
became.
I'll put you up against my son because right now my son, when he makes them, they look like they came out of some machine or something.
Yeah. Okay. Challenge accepted. I can't wait to get to Jamnesia.
All right, bro.
Hey, I have a question. Can you fly into Jamaica with some herb?
People have,
Yeah.
because I don't think the immigration and customs here are expecting that at all.
Yeah. 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 Interesting.
You know?
Okay. Well, Billy, Mystic, thank you very much. And
Yeah, man.
this is Cali High out, and I'll talk to you later. Okay? Ciao, bro.
Love.
Much love. Blessings. Let me turn this thing off here.
Well, every man has a need for a place to call home, a place of his own where there's a crown and a throne, where he can praise his God and he can serve his King, and he can chant King David's psalms and not fear a thing, where people can live and make their dreams real. Everywhere you go there is a love that you can feel, and the ground beneath his feet holds his forefathers' bone, and his history goes back for centuries untold. Blue Nile, by the banks of that river,